Good Ceann Corla. And just to back up what's been said here, I think that the investigation and the widening of the terms of reference does have to take more of the turn of an investigation of criminal proportions. I read into the Dáil record, and I'm going to read it again, what I think really illustrates in horrible terms the attitude of the Church to the mother and baby homes, the attitude of the Church of the day to small children who were born out of wedlock and were considered literally bastards and illegitimate at the time. Thanks be to God, not even to God, but thanks be to the world around us that we've moved on. But I want to just read this from a journalist called Donal O'Keefe, and he talked about John Desmond Dolan, born in 1946. He died at the age of 3 months, and his death cert said in the cruel language of the day that this child was a congenital idiot, described on his death cert as being miserable, emaciated and with a voracious appetite and no control over his bodily functions, probably mentally defective, 3 months old. And that is why I think when the UN have said, the UN Committee on the United Nations Commission on the Condition of Women, said that Ireland has failed to establish an independent, thorough and effective investigation in line with international standards into allegation of abuse, ill-treatment, neglect of women and children in the Magdalen laundries. And the committee is urging our state to conduct prompt, independent and thorough investigations in line with international human rights into all of the allegations of all of the institutions known as mother and baby homes and symphysiotomy, and to prosecute and punish the perpetrators of those involved in the violation of women's rights. We may not find an awful lot of people still alive to prosecute, but it is the case that this should be conducted as a criminal trial. It also continues to say that all victims and survivors of abuse should obtain an effective remedy, including appropriate compensation, apologies, restitution, satisfaction and rehabilitative services. Now, I know some of the women up here, and you're very welcome here today. I'm delighted to see you here. And one of them has told me recently that she's thinking of issuing you, Minister, with an invoice for what she's owed, for what she's suffered during her life, and the losses that she has suffered during her life. And that invoice should be handed directly to the Catholic Church, who are indeed an extremely wealthy organisation and have failed to pay their share of retribution for all of their crimes in this country, to children, to boys, to women and to babies. 35,000 women and girls went through the mother and baby homes between 1904 to 1996, and at least 6,000 babies died. The infant mortality rate at Tuam was 5 times the rest of the population, and indeed the infant mortality rate in all of the mother and baby homes was higher in the 20s, 30s and 40s than it was in the slums of our cities and towns. And I think that that says it all. But I do think that it's best described by Fintan O'Toole when he called it the moral industrial complex, the vast archipelago of industrial schools, Magdalen laundries, mother-baby homes and mental homes. And the history of this, Minister, as you know, is not just academic or it's not just historical, because the Church has fought tooth and nail and crozier to block any attempt for us to take control of the provision of health and education, and continues to this day to do so. And I would caution this House that we probably need to set aside a discussion on the developments in Vincent Hospital, because I don't think all is as healthy and as clean as it appears. My main point, therefore, is to really emphasise that although things are changing and changing healthier and better in this country, it is time that we began in a serious way the process of the separation of church and state. And if there's to be a memorial to the suffering of the thousands, at this stage probably hundreds of thousands, of the survivors and victims of the legacy of the Church and its role in this country, if there's to be a fit memorial, it should be that beginning of the separation of church and state, and to really put the Church into the dustbin of history where it belongs, but to do so by giving back the dignity to those people and giving them financial support and other supports, rehabilitative supports, and moral supports that they require. I'm delighted that you're going to meet them and take their testimonies. I think this should happen in a timely fashion and should not be dragged out for many years, because time moves on and people pass away. It is very important that all of them have their day and have some sense of justice in this country.